Hi, this is College Football and Stuff. It is week 3 of the season. I'm here with another video. We're going to go ahead and jump into them. Not a lot of great games this week, and we don't even get a Thursday night game to enjoy. But I'm going to go over them all again. I got my notes here. I'm going to cover all the games. Again, a lot of them aren't going to be great games probably, but there's a few that look pretty good on here, and I'll go into a little more detail on those. All right, let's jump right into it. So starting off on Friday, 7:30 on ESPN, we have Campbell at Coastal Carolina. So I think Coastal Carolina is going to win this game. It'll be something to watch if you don't have anything else to watch on Friday night, if you're not doing anything else, if you're dying to watch some football. It's a game that'll be on. Campbell, not an amazing team. Didn't even see a line on this. I think Coastal Carolina wins it probably pretty easy. Going on to Saturday, starting with the 12 o'clock games. So first one on Fox Sports Network at 12, Boston College at Duke. Duke a 5.5 point favorite here. So Duke looked probably a little bit better than I thought they would against Notre Dame last week, and no way to tell right now if that was Notre Dame not being as good as people expected them to be, if it was first game jitters, if Duke's a little bit better than people thought. They have that transfer quarterback, Duke does, from Clemson. He did pretty good. He had some decent stats in that game. Interesting here, Duke is a 5.5 point favorite in the spread that I saw. Boston College, though, according to the ESPN FPI, is the favorite. So I think that's interesting. I am going to go with Duke in this game to cover that spread. I think they win. I don't think Boston College is going to be great. I think they're going to be another one of those middle-of-the-road to lower-end ACC teams that they've been the past few seasons. I'm going to bet that maybe Duke is just a little bit better. I don't think they're going to be a great team, but I think they're going to be a little bit better than maybe people thought they were going to be coming into the season. So I've got them covering. Next up at 12 on ABC, we have Navy at Tulane. So this was a hard game for me to pick. Navy, of course, looked terrible in that game against BYU, just got absolutely blown out from the moment the game started till it ended. I want to pick Navy here. So Tulane, from what I saw, is a 7 point favorite. I want to pick Navy. I like the Service Academy schools, want them to do well. But after that loss to BYU, I really have trouble picking Navy in anything until they can sort of show me that they are getting better, that they're able to play at sort of the level that I thought they were going to be playing at coming into this season. So I'm going to go with Tulane. They played a close game with South Alabama last week. I thought South Alabama might have sort of a letdown after that big emotional win against Southern Miss, and Tulane won that game. Tulane had a really balanced offense in that game, really close between running and passing, about the same number of attempts each way and about the same amount of yards each way. So I think Tulane is going to be another decent team. They were pretty good last year, played some good games. I think they may be another one of these decent sort of smaller conference schools. So I've got Tulane covering in that game. Then at 12 on Fox, we've got Houston at Baylor. So, of course, Baylor lost their whole coaching staff. Matt Rule brought everybody with him to the NFL. And Baylor here is only a 4 point favorite against Houston. Now, Houston had their quarterback transfer to King, We'll see what happens here. Houston is one of those teams that had played really well. They had a good coach. He ended up going to Texas, and they got the new coach is the guy from West Virginia, Dana Holgorsen, and they did not look great last year. I was not really very impressed with their team. I have Baylor covering in this game. We'll see how much that new coaching staff affects them, though. So this has been a really tough season to have a whole turnover like that, replacing all the coaches, not having a lot of time with the players, don't have a lot of time to install a new offense and sort of get those evaluations in. But Baylor was a good team last year, had a really strong defense, beat a lot of teams, played some good football. So I think they've got the talent on the team. We'll see if this new coaching staff can work with it. Again, this will be the first game for both of these teams. You haven't had a chance to see either of them yet this season. But I have Baylor covering there in that 4-point spread. Then we have Louisiana Lafayette at Georgia State, also at 12 o'clock on ESPN2. So Louisiana Lafayette coming off that huge win against Iowa State. They are now ranked number 19 in the country. They are a 17-point favorite over Georgia State. So I was way off on a lot of these Big 12 schools. Way off on Kansas State, way off on Iowa State. Both of them just absolutely got wrecked by those lower classification schools that they played. The smaller conference schools that they played. So I wonder if you'll see that was a huge win for Louisiana Lafayette's program over Iowa State last week. Is that going to affect them this week? Are they going to have an emotional letdown? Are they going to be as up for this game as they were for that game? Are people overvaluing them a little bit with those 17 points because of that big win? And I think they cover. I think they're going to get another nice win here. Obviously, Georgia State, not as good of a team as Iowa State, but not a terrible team either, for sure. Georgia State, of course, beat Tennessee last year. Now, I think they cover. I don't think, if they do have a letdown, I don't think it's going to be that big of one. I don't think Georgia State is going to surprise them. I think they cover that 17. Then, continuing along with the 12 o'clock games on ESPNU, we have Liberty at Western Kentucky, a 14.5-point favorite. I think Western Kentucky covers that spread. Liberty, not a great team. Got that coach from Ole Miss who sort of got run out of there after having all the trouble, allegations of paying players, issues in his personal life that led to him being let go down there, now at Liberty. I think Western Kentucky covers this, though. Then we have Austin Peay at Cincy, also 12 o'clock on ESPN+, so it's online only. Cincinnati, I did not realize this, is ranked number 13 according to ESPN, which is interesting to me. I would not expect them to be ranked that high. I mean, I know we have none of the Big Ten or Pac-12 schools here, but still, 13 is really high. That's one behind North Carolina. So, Cincy, an interesting team, of course. They're going to win this game. Austin Peay, FCS school, got completely blown out last week. I didn't even see a spread on this one again. People think it's going to be a huge blowout, I'm sure, and I'm sure it will be. Cincinnati's going to win this game. Then we have Syracuse at Pitt, 12 o'clock on the ACC network. Syracuse, of course, played North Carolina last week. Lost, did not play well, had some opportunities to score a few points in that game, had a big kickoff return that got called back for a block, an illegal block that was not necessary for the play. That hurt them a lot. They kept it really close in the first half, and then of course just got completely wiped out in the second half. But really, Syracuse played really, really poorly, especially on offense. 3.5 yards per pass and 1.9 yards per rush. You're not going to win any games putting up stats like that. So Pitt, I saw, was a 22-point favorite. I am not going to fall into the same trap I did last time. I don't think Pitt is probably as good as North Carolina, but I'm going to take Pitt to cover that, especially if Syracuse is going to play the same way they did last week. Then we have Tulsa at Oklahoma State, 12 o'clock on ESPN. So this is our ESPN game for that time slot. Oklahoma State, a 22.5-point favorite. Tulsa, a team that has had good seasons in the past, or good seasons for the conference they're in. Oklahoma State's one of those teams that people are hyped on. They think they could be really good. Of course, they're going to have a high-powered offense. They're in the Big 12. I have them covering in this game. It'll be our first chance to see Oklahoma State play. I'm thinking, based on how those games last weekend went for the Big 12 schools, that we're probably looking at Texas, Oklahoma, maybe Oklahoma State, depending on how they look here, as the only teams that have a shot of winning the Big 12, and really probably just Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma looked ridiculous in that game. Of course, they were playing nothing, but I think they scored 48 points in the first quarter almost. So Oklahoma's going to be a good team. We'll see how good Oklahoma State looks against Tulsa, but I have them covering those 22.5 points. Moving on, we're on to the next time slot now, 2:30 on USA, which I thought was interesting. I did not realize that they carried college football games, but we have South Florida at Notre Dame. So, again, Notre Dame kind of struggled against Duke. Did not play as well as I thought they would. Had a good run game, though. Their running back looks really good. Like the way he played. I think that's really going to help them in games, let them control the time of possession, extend drives. South Florida is a team that I do not trust, though. So I saw Notre Dame a 26-point favorite. I am going to say that they cover those 26 points. I'm a little mad they didn't play better against Duke. And so I am hesitant on this, but I really don't trust South Florida. So I've got Notre Dame covering that 26-point spread. Next up, 3:30 on CBS. I think this is going to be a good game. This will be a game to watch. App State at Marshall. So I know neither of those are traditional powerhouses. I mean, they're teams that have been really good in their conferences. App State, I saw a 4.5-point favorite here, but I am actually going to go with Marshall in this. I'm going to take Marshall with the points here. App State looked good last week, nothing to complain about there. Marshall won their first game 59-0, though. It's hard to shut a team out. That's a bunch of points to put up. They were playing Eastern Kentucky, which is not a good team, but App State wasn't playing a great team last week either. I don't know. This is going to be a good game. I think it'll be close. The spread says it'll be close. I am going with my gut here, though, and saying that Marshall at least with those 4.5 points given to him works with the spread there. App State might still win this, but if they do, I think it'll be a close game. So Charolett at North Carolina, 3:30 on the Fox Sports Network. So North Carolina, really interesting last week. Looked not good at all in the first half against Syracuse. Syracuse should have been winning that game probably, or at least having it really close. And that was with Syracuse playing terribly. And then in the second half, North Carolina came out and looked like a completely different team, just blew Syracuse out from that point on. So interesting questions here. Is North Carolina that team that they were in the first half? Was that just first game jitters, sort of getting the bugs out of their system? Sort of, was that an issue with them not being ready, not like emotions of playing their first game, excitement, and then they sort of got calmed down and were able just to do what they do? Or was that second half more of a fluke? Did Syracuse get worn out? Did they give up? I don't think we'll have answers to any of those questions this week. North Carolina is going to blow Charolett out. Charolett is not a good team. I had North Carolina, I saw was a 30-point favorite, and I think they cover that spread. I think North Carolina absolutely destroys Charolett, if nothing else, is to try to get people's confidence back in them, maybe get some confidence for their team. FAU at Georgia Southern, 3:30 on ESPN. Didn't see a point spread on this game. FAU is a pretty big favorite according to the FPI. I think Florida Atlantic wins. Now, of course, they lost Lane Kiffin to Ole Miss, but they have the players that he was able to recruit there. I think he boosted that program up a little bit. I am going to say that they win that game. UCF at Georgia Tech, 3:30 on ABC. That'll be an interesting game. Of course, Georgia Tech got that nice win over Florida State. One of the games I called correctly last week. Georgia Tech, I don't think is going to be better than UCF, though. UCF is one of those teams that has been pretty good. Of course, claimed national championship a couple years ago after they went undefeated and beat Auburn in that bowl game. Georgia Tech, though, I think still has a long way to come. That was a super sloppy game against Florida State. They came out with a win, but again, it was only a 3-point win. A lot of missed opportunities there, missed field goals. Georgia Tech probably could have won that by a little bit more. I think they proved that they're a little bit ahead of Florida State. Florida State just has so many issues, especially on the offensive line. Wasn't able to get a running game going. Quarterback took a ton of sacks because of that line. I think UCF wins this game. Citadel at Clemson, 4 o'clock on the ACC network. Clemson's going to win this game. No surprises there. Didn't even see a line on this. I'm sure if you look some places you can find one. It's going to be ridiculous in the 40-something points. Clemson didn't score as many points against Wake Forest last week as I thought they would. They still looked good. Trevor Lawrence did everything he was supposed to. Travis Etienne is still great. Still have a good defensive line. Clemson wins this game. Troy at Middle Tennessee State, 4 o'clock on ESPN2. I saw Troy is a 3.5-point favorite, and I'm going with Troy here. Troy's a team that I like. They had some good wins a couple seasons ago. I'd like to see them get back to that. Middle Tennessee State, of course, got blown out by Army in their first game. I don't think Troy is anywhere near as good as Army is, but I think they're good enough to win this by more than a field goal. Next up, 6 o'clock, CBS Sports Network, SMU at North Texas. Now, North Texas is a team a couple of seasons ago had really good running game. Came out of nowhere a little bit. People didn't think that they were going to be that good, and they ended up being a decent team in their conference. SMU, of course, had that really close game against Texas State the first week. Not win by nearly as much as people thought they would. So there are some questions there with SMU. Are they going to be as good as people thought they were going to be? I saw that they were a 14-point favorite, and I am going to go with SMU covering that here. I don't expect North Texas to be a great team this year. I don't think they're going to be as good as they were those few seasons ago when they had that good season. I'm going to assume sort of here that maybe some of that Texas State game was Texas State being a little bit better than people thought they would be, and SMU sort of getting some jitters out in that first game. So I've got SMU covering those 14 points. La.Tech at Southern Miss. So Southern Miss, the team that South Alabama beat that first week, that was the big upset, first road win in several years for South Alabama. Southern Miss's head coach quit a couple of days after that. So that makes this an interesting game. So I would think, otherwise I would definitely be picking Southern Miss to win this game. La.Tech, I don't think they're going to be a great school. Obviously, Louisiana Lafayette, probably the best of those non-Power 5 Louisiana schools. La.Tech and Louisiana Monroe, I think, are probably a little bit farther behind them. I am going to take Southern Miss in this game, though. I want to see if these players sort of rally behind. I haven't seen, but whoever is stepping up into that head coach role, a lot of times you'll see players sort of play out for a position coach who got elevated, and try to show up a little bit more, puts a little fire under them. I'm going to pick Southern Miss to win this game. That's 7:30 ESPN2. Next up, we have Miami at Louisville, also at 7:30 on ABC. This is another game that I think is going to be a good game. I think it'll be worth watching. Louisville is a 2.5-point favorite, and they are a heavy favorite according to the FBI. I think they were 70 or 80% favorite. Louisville and Miami, interesting. So both of them played not amazing teams, but not terrible teams last week. Miami played UAB. Louisville played Western Kentucky. They sort of had flip-flopped stats in those games. So Miami had a really good run game, not a great passing offense in that game. Louisville, the opposite, had some huge passing yards, could not really run the ball well. Actually had 10.1 yards per pass in that game, which is crazy. That is a ridiculous stat. So Louisville, 2.5-point favorite. The FPI says that they should win pretty easily. I'm actually going to go against both of those, take Miami with the points. I may regret that. I'm still not super sold on Miami. I think Derek King is a good quarterback, though. I think they've got a decent defense, although they gave up some passing yards to UAB. So we'll see if Louisville is able to come out and pass anywhere near what they were able to do against Western Kentucky. They will win this game easy. But I am picking Miami here. Going on, still at 7:30 in ESPNU, Texas State at Louisiana Monroe. So poor Texas State lost another heartbreaker. They lost that game to SMU, which was a game that I think they could have won if some calls had gone their way. Lost in 2 overtimes last week. So another close game. They are a 6-point favorite against Louisiana Monroe. I am going to go with Texas State to win, laying those 6 points down. I'm really hoping that they're able to get a win in there because I feel like they definitely deserve one. Louisiana Monroe, not a bad team, but I'm going with Texas State and laying those 6 points. 8 o'clock on the ACC network, Wake Forest at NC State. So we saw Wake Forest against Clemson last week. We haven't seen NC State play yet. On the spread, I saw NC State 2.5-point favorite. I think this will be another good game, and it's sort of a little bit annoying that it's pretty much on at the same time as the Miami-Louisville game, because we got a lot of games here that I don't think are going to be great games. And then we've got these two on at the same time that I do really want to watch. So NC State did not have a very good season last season, and it's interesting to me that they are the favorite on the spread here, and I know it's essentially nothing. 2.5 points is not, especially at home in a night game, to be on only a 2.5-point favorite is really showing they don't have a lot of confidence in them. Last year, lost to Wake 44-10, so Wake was much better than them last season. Now, interesting stuff, Wake Forest didn't really run as much of the slow mesh offense that they ran last season in this game against Clemson last week. I don't know if that was a specific Clemson thing. I know Clemson has a really good defensive line. The slow mesh stuff, when they run it, does lead to more hits on the quarterback. I don't know if they're trying to protect him and keep him healthy. We'll see if that continues, if they're changing up their offense a little bit, or if they're going to go back to that slow mesh, and that was just for Clemson that they decided not to do that. But we'll see. I am going to go with Wake Forest in this game. I don't really trust NC State, not with how poorly they played last season, not having gotten just absolutely blown out by Wake Forest last year. So I'm going to take Wake Forest with those extra 2.5 points, and I think they'll win probably without needing those. So last game, not really a great game. Abilene Christian at UTEP. Interesting game to watch if you want to see if UTEP can get a second win. If they can, it's going to be in this game. Abilene Christian and another FCS team. Did not see a spread on this one. So UTEP won their opener against an FCS. I am actually going to pick them to win this one. I think it could be a close game. This is another opportunity if you want to see an FCS team beat an FBS team this season. I think this is a good opportunity for it. 9 o'clock on ESPN3, but I'm going to pick UTEP to win. I don't think they're going to lose this game. They did pretty good in their opener against that FCS, and then of course got absolutely rolled over by Texas last week, but everyone knew that was going to happen. Anyway, that's the games coming up this weekend. Not really a great looking weekend of football. We got a few good games in there. Of course, we got next weekend to look forward to when the SEC starts playing. We'll have a lot of good games then. So this is just sort of a biding our time week until we can really get into the meat of these teams' schedules, and we'll have a lot of good games next week. But that's all the video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button. I'm sure you know how YouTube works. If you want to see more of these, subscribe to the channel, and I will be back next week with another video.